All right. Two's is taking a back seat this morning, folks. I'm going to do a little ranting here. We'll see how I do. I want to talk to Lakeland College. I want to talk Chris King. All right. Here in Lloydminster. I don't know if you've heard. 17 years as the bench boss, head of the program removed. Okay. Here's a little background. The last 17 years, he's been the head coach of the basketball program here at Lakeland College in Lloyd. 4-time ACAC Coach of the Year. He received just last year Coaching Excellence Award, Coach of the Year for all of Canada. He's the national champ. He's undefeated in 2 bloody years. Pretty freaking successful, I would say. One player makes a complaint. He's out for discipline. And from the sources that I got, it sounds like team forgot a player's bag, jersey bag. They stayed out till 7 in the morning. Discipline invoked. Out the door. Says, no, that's not okay. And to make it worse, they didn't talk to everybody. So they go, okay, Chris, you're going to go sit on the sidelines when we investigate this. Team, would you go play? Coach, would you go play? Coaches won't go. So we're not going with Chris. Team won't go. So they forfeit their first 2 losses in 2+ years. Like, Lakeland College, wake up. If he's so bad, why is the team standing behind him? How about you go ask everybody about this? How about you go talk to all the players? I'm pretty sour this morning, Twos.
Yeah, I just saw that this morning. The booster was talking about it, and then I saw a supporting article saying that, well, exactly what you said. You summed it up pretty damn well between the 2 articles that I saw. I was going to rant about something, but it's going to pale in comparison to that, and I know we're on a tight timeline, so...
Just sucks. Happening in my backyard. I know Chris well. And they have been a crown jewel of not only Lloyd, they just hosted national championships, but all of Canada. Guy has been like, they've won the league 3 of the 3 last 4 years.
The fact that none of the coaching staff and none of the other players are willing to play until he comes back, I think says something. This isn't some Me Too thing. This is bureaucrats making shitty decisions, which is kind of on brand for the Mashup.
It is. Mashup 136. We're coming in hot this morning. You're probably going, what the heck is going on? It isn't even 10 o'clock yet. Fair enough. Well, we got this prima donna named Chris Sims in the background. You know, she's kind of a big deal. And we're going to get to our normal intro here soon enough.
We got to start early for her, and we
adjust everything.
Give her any green M&Ms either.
Chris Sims. Perrier. I don't see Perrier anywhere here.
Chris Sims, how's our favorite lady from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation doing this morning?
I'm doing great. I had the privilege of going all the way out to Ottawa. I also call it Mordor. I think I was on the road for like 19 and a half hours yesterday because I took a bus home from the Calgary airport down into Lethbridge. A shout out to Red Arrow. Those guys do a really good job. The drivers are professional, and it was all slippery and gross. So I was happily sitting up front chatting with them. So I'm good. I'm trying to adjust back to like mom life and stuff here at home after getting back from Ottawa and yelling at politicians for wasting your money.
Well, it's one of the things that people didn't see. Chris was on the road to Ottawa, Mordor, as she says. And I think it's very fitting. You know, like, you were a superstar. I guess
it was phenomenal.
We wanted to give you
every single clip was just, I don't know. Like, I didn't even know what to do with this morning. I'm like, should we just play like 15 minutes of highlights of highlights? Like, you just totally Tom Brady the whole thing. You were like the best hockey player ever, Gordie Howe. And it was so damn impressive.
Well, so what we wanted to do, other than praise you, is give you the opportunity to talk about it and to bring Canadians up to speed on you're talking to Parliament about defunding the CBC.
Yeah, for sure. So off the top, it was not just me. This people say this a lot, but it's so true. Massive team effort from the CTF. And sitting right next to me was Ryan Thorpe, who's an outstanding reporter. He's our investigative journalist. We have him on full time at the Taxpayers Federation. And to be fair, I think we manifested this because he and I were talking about this about a year ago, saying, "Can you imagine if we could finally go into committee and put the boots to them and say defund the CBC and journalists should not be paid by the government directly?" And lo and behold, it all happened really fast. So like late last week, I think it was even Thursday or Friday, they're like, "We are summoning you to testify at the Heritage Committee about job cuts at the CBC." They always have some reason, to be fair, like some study they're looking at or a piece of legislation that they're doing in committee. And then they invite witnesses to come in and testify. And so a lot of times people just do a video link up, which is fine for day-to-day stuff. But this time we wanted to go in kind of loaded for bear on this thing. And so I flew to Ottawa. We all put our heads together as a team, and you have to come up with an opening statement that's less than 5 minutes because they will cut your mic, as you probably imagine. They're not really happy to hear from us there, especially because it's the Trudeau government dominating the committee. But the Conservatives formally invited us. And so we went there and said our piece. So the opening statement is what a lot of people saw on YouTube. And then Sheila Gunn Reid very nicely turned and burned a lot of the other clips where we were going back and forth with the members of parliament. Quite often, they were super mad at us because they want to give the CBC more money. So the reason why we do this is like threefold, I would say. One, because our supporters want us to. We have thousands and thousands of supporters, and most of them want us to tell the government to defund the CBC. Two, it's an enormous waste of money, the CBC. And I don't think enough people on the national stage really hear that. And three, when you go right into parliament and you're in the belly of the beast, like you're bumping shoulders with all these MPs and their staff, and you're getting reactions and you're kind of feeling the room, you get up in their grill. You get into that kind of national headspace narrative and they all start talking about it. So it did make quite a few ripples, even in, I would say, mainstream media, by what we were saying.
You know, Chris, if I may, yeah, I the first time I ever had Chris on Twos, I said, you just summarized in a short period of time what would take me like 20 minutes to do. So when they're like, oh, we're only giving the Canadian Taxpayer Federation like these short windows, I'm like, do they know who they're messing with? Like, this is Chris Sims' Super Bowl. She's going to walk in and dominate you. And all the videos I saw, I'm like, if you enjoy this, folks, you know why I bring Chris Sims to the Cornerstone Forum 08 in Calgary, May 10th. Nice little plug there.
Thank
is
you.
because exactly that. I go, Chris, you get this amount of time, and it's always action packed. So,
I mean, seriously, like if they had a team of Scandinavian scientists in some isolated lab up in the middle of the Arctic, devoting their entire careers to making a person in a test tube better suited to this, they could not have done it.
Oh,
correct.
You're embarrassing me. Okay. Thank you, boys. Both of you, gentlemen. I really sincerely appreciate that. It was honestly, I've had a very lucky career. Considering that I've been in broadcasting for 25 years now, you get let go from those jobs for no fault of your own all the time. And I've even worked within the CBC itself for like 6 weeks or so. And so I know kind of how that world works, both mainstream media and brand new media as well, startup and hybrids, like Sun News Network was like a hybrid. And so it was just honestly, things very fortunately came together. And then again, also like, again, my colleague who's right there with me, people go back and watch the actual back and forth, he took a lot of those questions too. And Ryan is like,
them.
yeah, you saw them, right? Like, so
Yep.
I like to call him our mild-mannered reporter because I think he's Superman, because that's what they used to call Superman when he was Clark Kent. He is so dedicated to a free press, meaning free from government. There's a thing, I hope it's okay to share this because I am. There's a thing that in journalism where you're finished your copy, where you're writing articles, you do -30 So it looks like a 30 with 2 hyphens on either side. He has that tattooed on his arm. Like, he really means it. And so for us to be able to go in there together into the lion's den and fight for taxpayers and to fight for a free press was really important. And I'm just super, super grateful. One of the trickier questions they thought was tricky was saying, oh, well, aren't you on, True North and Rebel and da-da-da-da? I said, yeah, we are all the time. There's good journalists in every single newsroom in Canada, including in some mainstream media newsrooms. The point here, guys, is don't pay them with government money. Take journalists off government payroll and then watch who you want. That's free expression.
They didn't go end the mashup. We seen you were on the
I gotta
mashup
work you in.
Oh,
I have to trigger them, Sean.
I want to get a shout out in Ottawa one of these days. One of the other things I want to point out is your Newfie colleague.
Thank you.
All right, here's
perhaps, Mr. Job, you could tell me your background in economics and pricing climate policies.
Sure, I have a Bachelor of Science in Economics from Memorial University, and then I completed a law degree and a master's in business administration with a focus in public policy.
And your experience in pricing climate programs?
Sorry, do you mean if I'm experienced in taxing Canadians?
Isn't that amazing?
He's pretty damn good. Although I will say the one caveat, I feel like you can't thug life your own clips.
Yeah,
it's
you
kind of like giving yourself a nickname. But that was very well done.
So to be fair, I'll take you into where the pasta is being made behind the door. Devin didn't thug life his own clip. He just dropped that right at committee. So that's actually me and Ryan in the background of that.
Yeah.
You can see us sitting there and going, we looked at each other. And we have a youth wing of the Taxpayers Federation called Generation Screwed. And there's this great kid. I think he's 20 or something. I'm literally old enough to be his mom, like respectable married mom. He's this kid. And he does great work for us. And he loved Devin's clip so much. He did that to him. He thug lifed him or whatever that is.
Okay, we got to talk. We only have so much time, too. That was a great line. We're going to talk about that after Chris leaves. Well, let's bring up GST with her. Let's do the GST and see what Chris's thoughts are. I assume somewhere you got a headline for me.
Yes,
maybe.
I do.
We're all out of shorts.
This one, by the way, but here we go.
GST. Wait a second. If you like this and are watching on X, I'm speaking specifically to you, X. Retweet this sucker right now. All right, let's blow this thing up. Like, share, and get a rooster tattoo. Yes, and get a rooster tattoo.
It's funny
GST.
That was completely unintentional tie-in, by the way.
GST. This T stands for terrible. Obviously, we're talking about the GST holiday, the $250 check, on and on and on. Chris, your thoughts on this? And I'll make sure you get out of here before the top.
I got a question to ask her before she leaves on this, by the way.
So Chris,
allow time.
You got a short time frame. I don't know if you're ready for this.
So off the top, and I always want to lead with good news. We will never sneeze at a at a tax cut. So that's great. Mm-hmm. If you're going to cut taxes, that's always going to be a good thing. We get so many emails from people who are right on the edge, like they can barely afford to cover their basic bills. So around February, they should be getting a check of their own money back, by the way, for about $250. That always helps. So we're not going to look down our noses at that. However, there were so many issues with this rollout. So number one, it's really short window of time. Number two, almost everything that Trudeau was talking about there at the grocery store already is GST free. Anyone who does the major shopping for their family knows that those big honking bags of pasta behind him and bread and the peanut butter, like that doesn't have GST. GST is applied to grocery items that are of two things. One, they're of convenience. So it's a chopped up fruit plate with a dip in the middle and it's all covered off. They charge you 5% for that extra. That's the GST. If it's a roasted chicken with seasoning, then it is also 5% more for GST. And also what we call junk food. So if it's Pop-Tarts after Dunkaroos, after flats of Coca-Cola, yeah, you're paying a GST there because it's almost a form of a sugar tax here in Canada. So all that said, most of the time, the groceries you buy on like the outside of the aisle, so to speak, and your staples don't carry GST. So that was a bit of a miss there also. The other huge thing, and this is something that I was really surprised about, it sounds like they barely gave the provinces a heads up, like barely at all. And for places in the Maritimes, for example, that have an HST, a harmonized sales tax, they're now kind of telling places like New Brunswick, yeah, well, you're going to have to eat a 10% tax cut for 2 months that you were not anticipating. Sorry, that's crazy because that's a new Liberal government. They didn't give them a heads up. And the idea that they didn't give them a heads up, I heard, because I was just in Ottawa chatting with my friends, apparently the bureaucrats in finance and treasury just went crazy. They're like, what? You're doing what? So this sounds like it was, back of a napkin type thing that they did. So praise off the top, because anytime you get more of your money back from these robber barons in Ottawa is a good thing. But the execution was just really bad for policy.
Well, classic Ottawa, I would say. The thing I'm curious about is everybody's talking about the POS systems and how they're going to navigate this and the administrative cost for these businesses. And for an average savings of, I saw something saying it was going to be an average savings of less than $5 a person, which would mean that if you were going to spend $2,000 in the administration costs of doing this as a business, you would the economic equivalent would be to have 40,000 people come through your store in this narrow window. All right. So what I'm curious about is, why don't the businesses that this apply to just say, you know what, this is too much of a headache. We're just going to cut our prices by 5%, and Revenue Canada can eat a bag.
So one, they could do that, because quite often, so especially again in the Maritimes, you will see no sales tax for a weekend, like for a big weekend shopping. But of course, they're not actually taking the tax off. They're reducing, exactly to Tuesday's point, their prices by the equivalent amount. So that way they can have, it makes it look like a no tax sale, even though they are still paying Revenue Canada. But if they told Ottawa to just eat it, they would get in massive trouble. The CRA has got so many foot soldiers. Pardon me?
But if everybody did that, if all these small businesses just said, you know what, this is stupid and we're not going to do it.
The best thing they should do is yell the ears off of their members of parliament, because the individual businesses do not want to get caught out by CRA. Those guys don't play around. And Trudeau has added something crazy, like thousands of them to their ranks. There's more bureaucrats. We have more bureaucrats per person for the CRA than they have for the IRS in the United States by a
huge margin.
Yep. Huge margin. Yep, for sure. So I would never encourage poking that bear. Poke the bear that is the member of parliament, because they are literally your employee.
Chris, we have to let you out of here. I know we do.
I'm a big fan of meetings starting on time, and so we're going to let you out before
We
10.
appreciate you so much. We've done something we've never done before. We started 20 minutes early to accommodate Chris Sims, the Chris Sims schedule. We appreciate you being here. We'll have the Perrier water next time. Thank you for hopping in.
We're very
Chris.
sorry about that.
All jokes aside, thanks for coming.
Honestly, sorry for being such a pain in the butt.
We've already fired the person who didn't give you the sparkling water.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Oh, man. Okay. Mashup 136, starting with a bang. We got another guest coming here, too, because there's some big news this week. So we got lots to get to. I jumped past a whole bunch of things that normally we talk about. So while we wait for our next guest, and if we got to do a headline or two twos, we can do that as well.
Oh, absolutely.
We've been talking about a few different things, okay? We've been talking about value for value. I'm going to keep throwing this idea out to the audience and let people text me on it, right? If they want to get in on the show, if they have ideas around value for value. Me and Two's been talking it now, probably 3 weeks. So we're talking about starting it in January. We want to get your thoughts on it. And if you're interested in it, you can put it in comments. You can text me. You can email Two's. We can, interact that way. We've been looking for a new theme song. Obviously, we've been talking lots about this. I've had a little bit of feedback on that. You playing the Dr. Dre song, I'm like, God, how cool would it be to come out to something similar to Dr. Dre, that like vibe? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. So if you know somebody here,
until he comes out in the Diddy tapes, but yeah.
Well, I'm not saying Dr. Dre. I'm saying something.
How bad would it have been if our theme song was "Shake It, Pale Feather," right? Which sucks. Like, that's one of my all-time favorite songs. I probably listen to that song at least once a week for the past 20 years, and now I'm I can't listen to this anymore.
Happy Airborne Friday, Jamie Sinclair and all the military boys. Shout out to the military boys. A lot of time for all you fine folks. And then the Coots 6.5. Obviously, Anthony Olenek, Christopher Carbert, 6.5 years. We bring it up every week, and normally we'd have an article to talk about. This week we
kind of rapid fired. There was a couple contenders,
Yes.
but I didn't have enough time to get into the weeds and figure out the finer points of them before they came out. But trust me, there's more stupid shit that gets people in jail for less time than what they're dealing with right now.
And finally, before we get into some of the headlines of this week, I wanted to say Chris Sims. Hey, we got a ton of time for her if you hadn't caught on to that. She's been on the show lots, both on the Mashup and then on the podcast. And what she does for Canadian Taxpayers Federation, she's going to be on stage for me May 10th at the Cornerstone Forum 2025. So tickets are on sale for that. If you're watching her going, holy crap, who is this lady? I'm like, that's Chris Sims. I literally had her on for the first time. I was doing a show in Edmonton on media. This is like 2 years ago. And the first time I ever had Chris Sims on, halfway through the interview, I'm like, this lady's got to be on the stage with me. This lady is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And she continues to do that every time she gets put in a high pressure situation. So now, okay. Yes, the brains of the operation left. Now what? You get us two yahoos, Ryan. That's what you get.
Exactly.
Sims
All right.
is a beauty.
So while we wait for our next guest to come on to talk about the other big news this week, let's get into some small potatoes.
The NDP are not a serious party. Conservatives were criticizing Singh of driving a Maserati, and he says it's not mine at all.
Yeah.
It's someone else's.
It's the other Jag meats.
It's somebody else's.
And the funny thing was he was very okay. Here's the thing. Imagine you're somebody in media and you're there at that scrum. And he says, well, that wasn't my Maserati that I got into. What's your obvious follow-up that none of them asked?
Whose Maserati is it?
Whose Maserati is it? Because
whose
it's
is it
either his wife's, or maybe he's got it under his infant baby's name, or he says it's a friend of his. And then you say, who the fuck has enough fucking time for the leader of the NDP that they're going to driving Miss Daisy, this idiot motherfucker, in a Maserati? Because what is it? Is it some big union donor? Is it somebody from Canada Post, the CUPW? Who is this? I would like to know, if it's not his Maserati, whose Maserati?
Interesting. His comments on it were hilarious.
His comments on it were hilarious, but also the fact that he very obviously was avoiding the question. And despite that, the reporters didn't smell the blood in the water and go for it. The other interesting thing is that Caitlin Ford's lawsuit, almost $30,000 worth of
yes. Thank you for bringing this up.
Court fees are awarded to her from the federal NDP party, because the provincial NDP party not only is not a serious party, but it technically doesn't exist. And so the Caitlin Ford defamation lawsuit, which was originally slated to be against the Alberta NDP party, well, it turns out that there is no Alberta NDP party, and they literally are a division of the federal NDP.
Yeah, and I should point out, I'm glad you bring up Caitlin Ford, because she's also going to be on stage May 10th at the Cornerstone Forum in Calgary, Alberta. Just saying. I got a lot of time for the two ladies, Chris Sims, Caitlin Ford. They're two sharp tacks here sitting in Alberta.
Well, when I was at the AGM, we were both at the AGM along with thousands of other people. I was like an hour late on the Saturday morning because I was having breakfast with somebody that just kept telling me, like, in a great way, not like, oh, Jesus Christ, but to be clear, like in a very interesting, positive way, about how their kid was in one of Caitlin Ford's schools and how good it was and how well it was doing for her. And yeah, it was just this completely side thing where, you hear about it because she talked about it on your show. And then I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. Tell me a bit more. And then the floodgates open, and this lady could not say enough great things about the school.
Yeah, I'm excited to have her. I got to tell you, twos, the Oilers suck donkey balls. They certainly don't. But I see what you did there. Who put that on the teleprompter? Y'all know Rod can't read it. Anyways, it doesn't matter. If you didn't know, Connor McDavid, I thought you were going to make fun of something else. He got his 1,000th point, so they had the ceremony. Here he is. I chuckled at this. Who brings their dog? Who brings their dog?
Oh, you think Bane wouldn't have the time of his life there?
I think he would have the time. It wouldn't be on the top of my mind to bring. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring Bane. Although he'd be sitting there going, he'd be having a grand old time. Yes. So anyways, Connor McDavid, 1,000 points. And since we brought up a little bit of hockey, have you looked at the Four Nations Cup, right? Four Nations Cup?
You know the goalie issue?
Well, just in general, like Canada, Sweden, Finland, US, gonna have a tournament.
And how there's like nothing for goaltending on our side.
Yeah, like we have. Yes. Here, I want to pull it up here. I'm gonna pull it up.
Okay, pull it up. You pull it up. You pull it up.
Yeah, you pull it up. You pull it up. No, here's Canada. Okay. Now, I want to be very clear. Me and Twos don't talk a whole lot of hockey, but this excites me. We've been waiting for Connor McDavid to be in a Canadian jersey for forever, right? Like, I mean, if you're Canadian, I think that's a safe bet. Look at our goaltending. Jordan Binnington, Aiden Hill, and Sam Montembeault.
It's weak.
That's what we got.
It's weak.
That's what we got. Our forwards are just killer, man, though. Like, I mean, and you look at the teams, like, this is going to be fun. U.S. is filthy. Sweden's filthy. And you might say that Finland is a little bit weaker, but Finland, they play a tough game. That's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We talk all this craziness about the world. A little bit of hockey never hurts.
All right. Okay.
All right. Now,
well, we have our new guest.
Yes,
our latest guest.
All right, and we're gonna bring him in, Mr. Rod Giltaka, coming in. How are you doing, sir?
I'm all right, guys. Sorry, I'm late. I was I didn't understand the time change, so I was driving, and I'm like, yeah. Looks like I'm supposed to be on right now.
It's all good. It's all good. We want to talk about Trudeau wants 2 tickets to the gun show. Obviously, the latest coming down the line, Rod, on more gun grabs. I felt like I just interviewed you. I swear to God, we did not talk about this. Did I miss something? Did this come out of nowhere? Can you just explain this to Canadians? What the heck just happened?
Yeah, well, it did come out of nowhere. We sort of knew there were some rumors floating around maybe 3 days ago. But basically, when we spoke, there was a settled list that of prohibited firearms that the Liberals had enacted, both on the May 1st, 2020 gun ban. Another 800 models that the RCMP determined were variants of the guns that were banned, and then all the fight over Bill C-21. And things had settled out. The government said, hey, these are banned guns. Don't get mad at us, guys. These ones are too dangerous to own. There's a bunch of 22s on there, too, by the way, and shotguns.
Yep.
But you can now go buy these other guns, like it's over. And now they're like, oh, yeah, all those other guns, the $10,000 that you just spent to replace all these guns that were too dangerous to own, they're all banned now, too. Lol. That's their position on it. They think it's funny.
Oh, it's crazy. So one of the guns that was banned in this was a World War II plane-mounted machine gun. The if you want to look up the Browning 50 caliber airplane mod, which is specifically named in this, you need to go to World War II websites to find stuff about it. It's insane. Here's one of the 22s that was banned. I mean, look, I get the fact that every liberal is racist as fuck, but just because something is black and scary doesn't mean you don't want to have it around.
I should point out, Rod, welcome to the mashup, and welcome to Twos. Twos says some things like it is. Am I wrong on this, Twos, and Rod for that matter? Did I read that they want to ban all these guns and then ship them over? Like maybe they could be used in the Ukraine-Russia war. Like, or is that just blown out of proportion?
So Bill Blair had said every bit of assistance we can offer to the Ukrainians is one step towards their victory. You know what? If we want to send them something that could probably help, how about 55,000 postal workers? They're not doing anything right now.
Yeah. Well, the Ukraine thing, I mean, this is the most ridiculous government in the history of the country, the most corrupt government. They're literally looting the country, as we all know. There's a reason why Parliament isn't even moving right now. It's because of their $400 million worth of missing money through the green slush fund. But they're trying to change the channel. And what they do, this is how politics is done. They throw a whole bunch of things into the pot. So number one, Canadians won't be safe, and we will eliminate mass shootings if we ban all guns from everybody, which is, of course, preposterous. And number two, if you disagree, you're a Russian asset, you're against the Ukrainians because we're going to be sending these 22s and these shotguns to the Ukraine. So this is how they operate. And unfortunately, there's still 20% of the population who are so intellectually soft-boiled that they're fooled by this stuff because they're still voting for the Liberals, according to polls. So anyway, it's just, it's ridiculous, it's preposterous, and it's malevolent.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right in that. I think that we're kind of missing the bigger picture here, though, because we're not talking about how stupid they are. So, for example, just hear me out on this. Everything you said is absolutely correct, and I agree with it. But they're also idiots. Because one of the guns that was banned, I can't remember which one, but I was looking at it last night, is an 87-year-old Japanese bolt-action sniper rifle with this weird, obscure ammunition that I've never even heard of. There's no way in fuck that you're going to send that over to Ukraine because no one's going to have any cartridges to put in it, right? And then one of the other ones is the Walther, the WA-2000. 176 of those were made ever 176 of them. It's one of the most valuable guns at all in history. One of them sold for almost $200,000 or $100,000 or $200,000 a couple years ago in the States. Who the fuck is gonna use a 6-figure gun for a mass shooting?
Yeah. Oh well, the whole thing is laughable. And I think it's really important to remember, like the Liberals, these people aren't stupid. And this is what people need to remember. Like, this isn't don't they know that firearm-related violence has gone through the roof while we've had the most gun bans in history of the country? Like they know all these things. They know all of them. This is not a mistake. This is not incompetence. They have the Department of Justice. They got 200 lawyers on staff. Like they know all this stuff.
No, they really don't though. Like
they do. This is pure malevolence.
There's a whole bunch of Tippmans on here. Tippmann makes rimfire rifles and paintball guns.
I know.
I was really disappointed. I was hoping they accidentally put in a 68 caliber in there, and then was going to realize afterwards that it was paintball. It was paintball. But they even had this like.
Wait a sec, though. Twos. You're calling them stupid. Rod's saying they're not stupid. Mm-hmm. And then you point out all the things that are stupid. Rod, when you hear all the things that are stupid, why do you not equate that to stupid, but more to like they're trying to gaslight the population into going or whatever you think? Like why do you look at that? Because you brought up how many lawyers they have on file and everything else.
Well, and they have the RCMP Canadian Firearms Lab. Those guys know the difference between a paintball gun, a gun mounted on aircraft, and an AR-15 that we would have available for civilians. They know all this stuff. They're packing the list. They're putting as many things on that list as they possibly can because they're trying to show Canadians how determined they are to end gun violence while gun violence rages at historic levels. It's literally gaslighting.
Yeah.
And they are throwing 2.4 million people under the bus for it. Like, this is how divided and malevolent politics is in Canada right now, because they know those people, meaning us, will never vote for them anyway. So screw them. We'll use the police to beat down their doors. We'll take their things. We don't even care if a couple of them lose their minds and become violent. It doesn't matter. That reinforces that reinforces their narrative, right? Like it's a win-win for evil sadists. And I'm sorry to use hyperbolic language, but I mean, like, we've gotten to the point, and I always talk like this, but I never used to talk like this in public because 5 years ago, 8 years ago, it was a different political environment. But these people have gotten to the point where it's like, okay, the mask is fully off, right? And people need to know this stuff. This is really, really bad. This is a serious problem.
Okay. But here's the other thing is, like, everything you said, I completely agree with. But I feel like they've got no industry knowledge that they're actually listening to. I mean, you remember they banned they banned a few airsoft guns, they banned Black Rifle Coffee, the Buttmaster, the one in existence single shot 22 that guy machined as just a drunken bet. There's a gun on here that I couldn't find anything about. From Gary's Gunsmithing, there's a gun called the Phoenix. What is it? And Gary's Gunsmithing gets singled out in the national firearm ban? Like, what the hell is any of this?
But Tooz, maybe if I may, and I don't know if I'm getting this right, Rod, and you stare at it like, where's the common sense in what they're doing? And Rod's telling you that's not what they're doing. They're making this list and they're putting everything. They want everything. They want
the list to be long.
Yeah. And so it doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter that there's only 100 of them made. They don't care.
Yeah.
They're going, we want it all. We want everything. We want your little BB gun. We want your airsoft gun. We want it all because guns are bad. And what Rod's pointing out is they know all this and they know that, like, gun violence is soaring. So it goes, the common sense thing, we all stare and go, what? How do we make sense of this? It's not supposed to make sense.
That's what we need to point out. We've all been making this argument for a long time that they want to take all of our guns and that they don't give a shit about crime on the streets and that they just do this to get votes in Toronto. And we've been making this same argument for a long time, and it's falling on deaf ears. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to just point out the fact that these guys are goddamn retards. Let's try a different avenue.
Rod, any final thoughts before we let you out of here?
Well, I don't disagree with that either. But as far as getting the word out, there's only so many options out there. You know, the CCFR, we get the most mainstream or legacy media that any gun group has ever had, and it's still a fraction of what the anti-gun groups get. You know, I do podcasts. We have our own television show nationally broadcast. We have our own podcast as well. We do all kinds of extra videos. We do tons of social media. We're doing everything we possibly can to get the word out, but nothing is going to change until really two things. Number one, this government is gone, because just that's how our system works. We don't have codified rights. And number two, we cannot take the pressure off the conservatives. They are going to form a supermajority government or close to it. They have to follow through with their promises to repeal all this stuff and then bring the hammer down on criminals, or Canada will continue to be unsafe and the conservatives will never win again. So we need drastic change, not just nuanced change like in the past. So hold these people to account. They have to stop this.
And if I may add one thing to seed into the audience is, I think coming through COVID, I looked at lists and I'm like, I don't want to be on a list. I don't want to have my name associated with anything because, but now I look at it almost, we got to reframe our brain on lists. You got to become members of the CCFR, right? You got to have, like, I look at politics and I go, if all of a sudden you had the 2.5 million were all together united, and maybe they're more united than I give credit, Rod. I don't mean to say they're not. Just that, the CCFR doesn't have 2.5 million people under them to walk in and be like, listen, folks, this isn't happening anymore. And we got to find a way to reframe our brain on lists. And I think, after our chat earlier this week, I'm like, that's something we got to start talking about, because lists actually do matter for the positive as well.
Yeah. And there's one more moving part. I just want to, and thank you for that, by the way. We have about 1.5% of that number that you talked about. And that's the number of firearm owners that are politically active in this country. So it's still pretty bad. Long way to grow. How about that? But there's still one more moving part. On Monday and Tuesday this coming week, we have we are in the Court of Appeal, the Federal Court of Appeal, for our lawsuit. That is, if we win, determines that the order in council that banned all these guns was illegal, that the government didn't have the authority to use that. If we win, this whole thing is probably goes away for the, in the interim. If we lose, then we'll see if we can take it to the Supreme Court, because we're right on this. So let's hope that we have a decision in the next couple of months from our court dates on Monday and Tuesday, and that the judiciary decides that this is wrong.
Rod Giltaka, thanks for making some time for us this morning. We appreciate you hopping on. We appreciate what you're doing. The only thing I would add is, you say hope, I'd say pray. I would say to any of the listeners out there, there's more to this than just what meets the eye. And I'm 100% behind you on what you folks are doing. Appreciate the work. Appreciate you hopping on this morning.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, twos. There, you got. What a morning this is turning out to be. Chris Sims, and then fired up with Rod Giltaka
so far, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going down And Michelle's right. If you're not on the list, you aren't doing it right. And that's where I've come to Michelle. I'm like, I'm already on how many lists? How about I choose to be on a couple lists that are going to help us get out of this stuff? And I think the CCFR, and there's probably a few others out there. I'm not just. I just had them on
DTF,
Monday.
for example.
Yes. That you're like, you might as well be on it, right? You might as well be pushing so you can help them push against the insanity that's going on, because it just, it just knows no ends, it seems. Okay. Man alive. I tell you what, let's go. We went from Oilers in the Four Nation Cup to guns. What do you got next for me, Twos? Doge of the week. A paltry 6% of federal workforce report in person on a full-time basis, while almost 1/3 of the federal workers are remote on a full-time basis, in a sharp turnaround from the pre-pandemic era in which only 3% of telework daily. This is from a reporter. The report.
This is in the States.
United States. Senator Joni Ernst's office found the nation's capital is a ghost town with government buildings averaging an occupancy rate of 12%. Ernst wrote in a blistering report, if federal employees can't be found at their desks, exactly where are they?
If you exclude security guards and maintenance personnel, the number of government workers who show up in person and do 40 hours of work a week is close to 1%. Now, that's funny, because the standard work week in Canada for government employees isn't even 40 hours. So anyway, this is one of the things that Elon and Vivek are going to be looking at. And then also, it's all kind of speculation right now, but apparently the federal government is looking at doing some layoffs to curb spending, which is too little, too late.
Yeah.
Also, did you, when you talked to our friends at the UCP, did you ask them why the provincial government is advertising for hiring in the public sector?
No, I didn't.
I don't know. I don't listen to the radio very much, but it seems like every time I turn on the radio, I hear an ad for the government of Canada or the government of Alberta to say, hey, come work for us. It's really good to work here.
Oh, interesting. No. Next week, I have on Jennifer Johnson, Shane Getson, talking about Bill 26, 27, 29, which we're going to get to, and Jennifer Johnson standing up to, and basically becoming national headline for just international for saying, can't we just disagree? And no, that was not allowed. India didn't like brown candidate. Yet, yesterday, Boohoo Jen, this is a tweet. Yesterday, Boohoo Jen, that is MP Jennifer O'Connell, used her time presenting a petition that had 35 signatures on it to spread the conspiracy theory that Pierre Poilievre, quoted, could not win leadership unless someone's finger was on the scale.
So this is this new thing that's come up, and the CBC's tried to run with it, but it didn't really get much traction because apparently India didn't want Patrick Brown to win. This is the story, is that India didn't want Patrick Brown to win the leadership contest in, what was it, 2022? That they picked the new leader when Poilievre became leader.
I think that sounds right.
He was disqualified for
there was 3 of them. There was 3 of them disqualified, right?
Who was the other
But-
one disqualified? I can't
Well,
remember.
Joseph Bourgault was disqualified.
Oh, right,
and
right.
one other.
Yes.
There was 3 in
Yes.
total disqualified. Like the actual story, I find laughable because I think there was some tomfoolery on the conservative
absolutely.
side. But the way this story is framed, I'm like, this is a nothing burger. At this point.
why the hell would India care about Patrick Brown? Like he's irrelevant outside of Ontario. The guy had zero hope of winning. Like they may as well try and disqualify me for running as federal leader of the Conservative Party for all the amount of good it would do. Like you're if you are a country that's almost the antipode of Canada, why would you sink time, effort, and money into putting your thumb on the scale of a foregone conclusion? It just baffles me.
Yeah, but I thought the same thing about Joseph Bourgault, right? I'm like, why would they? Why would they?
Well,
put the thumb on-
I'll tell you why they disqualified Joseph Bourgault.
because the conversation he was going to bring up
was because he was going to be seen as an extremist, whether he won or not. And I don't think anybody thought he was going to win. The problem was going to be that the mainstream media was going to say, look at all these extremists in the Conservative Party. One of them's even running for leader. And that was going to hurt them in the media,
Anytime
which was going to hurt them in the polls.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was it. You think about
Sure.
the Conservative
at the
Party
rest of the
2 years
world,
ago,
Tews.
it was
Those
terrified
people-
of mainstream media.
we applaud all these people all across the planet that are running and winning and becoming populist movements and on and on and on. And our government, or soon to be our government, put the finger on the scale to make sure that wasn't part of the process, which is interesting, right? So while I'm like the story the CBC is trying to push, I find laughable. I'm like, me and you could write a better story than this. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
like,
but I mean,
not that I want
don't
to. It's
think-
just
I don't think even. I bet you Thurin Fleury, if you were to have an honest conversation with him, totally talking out of my ass on this, but I bet you if you asked him, he would probably candidly tell you that he wasn't expecting Joseph Bourgault to win. The problem is that it would have been one more target to put on the Conservatives' backs about having a bunch of extremists in the party.
It's
and that's
it's
it. That's
it's
it.
the pro-life,
That's why they disqualified.
pro-choice debate on that year. They had Leslyn Lewis along with all the other candidates running.
Mhm.
And when it came to pro-choice, pro-life, all it was just state what you are. And she was the only pro-life on the candidacy. And I'm like, oh, just ask her why. And they just moved on, right? They do the thing so they can check mark it, and on they went. And this is another way that they try and take away any controversy from the next leader because they are going to do anything they can to win. Shall we move on?
No. I want to make one other
oh.
point. One other point with this is that they were really short-sighted and stupid, which is classic politician in Canada.
Politician?
Because as soon as the mainstream media tried to say, "Oh, look, they've got an extremist," you'd be like, "Yes, he ran because we're democratic and people can run because that's kind of how democracy works." And when it was all said and done, he got 1.6% of the popular vote. So do you really think that our party is full of extremists because 1.6% of them thought that was good or whatever it was, right? I mean, he's fairly unknown outside of Western Canada.
Well, I mean,
You got a bunch
was
of people
Brown.
who's going to
Yes.
see his name on farm
Yes.
equipment, but that's it, right?
Yes.
And so he had no chance of winning. And
well, no,
so
but
the smart
we
thing
go
would have
back to
been-
the head. Yes, we go back to the headline of Brown and all these different people. Pierre Poilievre was the obvious choice. I mean, look at the crowds he had.
He'd been
as he
unofficially running for like 4 years before that.
I agree with you, too.
All right.
No, we don't always do that. But hey, the other Randy of the week. I'm glad you found a way to at least find a way to sneak Randy in because I'm like, I feel like the story is.
I mean, there's so
slowly...
many Randys to choose from. It's pretty easy.
Yeah. I don't know. He quoted this. I chose the term non-status adopted Cree. That's all I got for this week. I'm sure you want to show the video. I'm sure you want to do something here. The other Randy, I think we should create shirts. I think we should have way too much fun with this for as long as we can, because the other Randy, I will be truly saddened when this story is something of the past, because him being, grilled this week was fantastic all over again.
Yeah. So here's a minute and a half, a little bit less of just pure beauty.
You said today that you came to the term non-status adopted Cree through consultation with an Indigenous researcher. What was the name of that researcher?
I met with Chad Cowie, who was a student.
Thank you very much. We know. Thank you. We know who Mr. Cowie is, Professor Cowie is. In an interview with the National Post, Professor Cowie denied your version of events. The National Post quotes him as saying, "I would not say that I gave him the term that he was non-status adopted Cree." Did Professor Cowie tell the truth to the National Post, and do you now want to correct your opening statement?
My opening statement was very clear, Mr. Genuous. I said that I chose the term non-status adopted Cree after having a conversation with Mr. Cowie.
Okay. So now it's clear that it was. So you sat down with Professor Cowie, and he gave you some advice. You ignored that advice and came up with this term independently on your own. And then you came back to committee and said, well, in the context of conversation, I came up with this term. Frankly, that's what we've come to expect from you, Mr. Boissonneau. But
oh, how good is that? The MP from Gryffindor comes out swinging. Oh, well done, Garnet. Yeah. And then there's, yeah. I mean, Twitter was afire
at some point, the other Randy is going to go into infamy and live on in our memories. But right now, it's just, this story really annoyed me for the longest time. Now I'm like, I can't get enough of it. I hope this drags on until the election,
It's kind of like when you're about halfway done a road trip and you just realize that you're just having such a great time on the road trip. And you're just like, well, you know what? In another couple hours, I'm going to have to turn. And I'm going to be sad when it happens.
I agree. Via Rail's taxpayers. Via Rail has a subsidy on transcontinental services up to $1,000 and $15 per passenger, a record with trains typically more than 8 hours. Management in a report to Parliament said the Canadian tourist train that runs between Vancouver and Toronto is so frequently late, the delays are at times unacceptable, and they are getting subsidized heavy.
Remember when STC, the Saskatchewan Transit Company, the bus service that was competing with Greyhound, got shut down because they were subsidizing something like every time someone stepped on that bus, it cost the taxpayers $200. This is that times 5 because inflation. Every time someone sets their dumb ass on one of these Via Rail trains, it costs taxpayers $1,000.
You know what's crazy about it? Like Via
Nothing,
Rail is
actually,
well, nothing, but Via Rail is expensive. Like,
I don't know. I've never looked into it or done it. Does it even come out here?
Yeah. Here, I'm just gonna hop on Via Rail real fast because I'm sure.
Well, you just cost us $1,000.
Wainwright to Vancouver. Sure, why not? Let's see.
What an odd choice. Like, have they even laid that track yet? I didn't realize there was a train going from Wainwright to Vancouver, Sean.
Tickets. Let's see what it says. Round trip. Yeah. Come on, you. This is terrible. People are like, all right, this sucks.
Okay.
Move on.
Somebody in the comments, Via Rail is like $2,800 Calgary to Vancouver. Did you ever see that episode of Archer when they were trying to bring back the blimp? Where there was that guy who started a blimp company and then it ended up being a horrible decision. And so he was trying to sabotage his blimp company. But
Sure.
he's like basically the gist of it when it all comes out is that you've got this thing that's just like a floating bomb that travels at 1/10 the speed of everything else. And believe it or not, it was a bad business decision.
Cabin for two, $1,600 to go from. It's actually not as bad as I thought, to go from Wainwright to Toronto. So maybe the subsidy is trying to make it a little more cost effective for Canadians. But I mean, at the end of the day, there you go. It's still a lot of money.
Yeah. All right. Give me a buzz. Let's talk
Uh,
about the other one.
Air Canada deflated. Air Canada economy basic fare tickets. Man, that may bring up some PTSD if you've been listening to this show, because it was WestJet before.
Yep.
The airline's lowest tier purchased on or after January 3rd will no longer include carry-on baggage, meaning you can only bring one personal article, 16 by 33 by 43 centimeters, such as a purse or laptop bag, on flights within Canada or to the United States, Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. Other international destinations will still allow you to bring one personal article and one carry-on bag. So what happens to the carry-on size bags? They will have to be checked like larger items at a fee of $35 for the first item and $50 for the second. And if you arrive at the gate with an ineligible bag, the fee goes to $65. So no more carry-ons,
So
twos.
it's just this voluntary disclosure. Like, if you pay for it on this side of the wicket, it's $35. But if you try and get in and you find out later on that you can't get it in, it's $65. I love how it's just this little kind of implied threat of you trying to like sneak under the radar with that. I wonder how many people are gonna, like, somebody
is going to develop a computer bag that opens up and you can like fold in clothes and just carry it on. Yes.
Well, no, it's gonna be like a fat suit. Someone's gonna make a fat suit with a bunch of zippers in it. You could just tuck your laptop in here and a pair of socks under your armpit, and wear 5 pairs of gitch. And
So
people are gonna do this where, like, because they're gonna have like 3 jackets on, or it's gonna look like 3 jackets, and they're gonna have a whole bunch of stuff just tucked in everywhere. Phone.
You know what they're going to
charger
say
cords
next is
leaking
you're
out
not
the
allowed a
back.
jacket. No jackets. Coat check. You got to pay for coat check.
Yeah, I could see that. If only there was some way to stop this, like maybe introducing competition in the market.
No, that's a weird idea. Why would we ever do that? Amber alerts are a company policy. The first subheading under equity in the Toronto Public Library's list of values is accessibility. Last week, a branch in the city's East End may have failed to live up to the spirit of that code when staff refused a lost little girl's request to call her mother.
That's it. That's basically it.
That's it.
This little girl was lost, and so she went into the library and asked if she could use their phone to call her mom because she was lost. And the librarian said, well, first of all, they probably went, shh.
The librarian behind the counter denied the request, stating it was against policy to let the public use their phones, and directed the girl to the payphone outside. You know what makes this even worse, twos?
Nothing.
Well, I mean, I think
horrible.
The girl actually had quarters and a debit card on her, but couldn't figure out how to use the payphone. So okay, 2 things here. One, horrific that you would turn away an 11-year-old girl and not allow her to use a phone. That's insane. 1, okay? I get policy. I get all these stupid things. I get it. But 2, she actually had the stuff to use a payphone, didn't know how to use it, and they just wouldn't go, oh, here, and there you go. Like, what?
It's exactly the kind of thing I would expect from our government employees.
Carbon tax, a tough sell. You want to show the video? I think you want to show the video. You want to show the video, don't you?
Well,
Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault
Yep.
is asked why provincial Liberals, Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie, are distancing themselves from the carbon tax. Here's what it is.
So that's basically what's happening now, is that the provincial Liberals, who in a lot of cases are dropping the name Liberal, are also no longer supporting the carbon tax.
Provincial Liberals are running away from the consumer carbon price. How come they're running away from that policy? If it's so good, it's economists want it, how come all your other provincial...
Because it's tough politically, and fighting climate change is difficult, and that's where you see leadership.
Are you saying Ms. Crombie's not showing leadership? Are you saying she's a weak leader? Are you saying she's not showing leadership?
Follow-up.
I'm saying that it's tough to fight climate change, and being a leader is doing difficult things sometimes, even if they're unpopular, but they're the right thing to do.
So yeah,
you know what I hate about that?
Nothing.
I actually liked his answer. I just disagree with what he's talking about. Leadership is about doing difficult things.
name one instance where the Liberals,
I know.
in
That's
any
what I'm saying.
sincerity,
I
have
hear him,
done
and
a
I'm like,
difficult thing.
I actually agree with that
unpopular.
sentence. He just used it in the wrong way, and I'm like, it's Stephen Gay balls. And we're like, right? Like
Stephen Gay balls. Ugh. All right, buzz me.
First, they came for the buggy whippers, but I said nothing because I had a car. Then they came for the elevator operators, but I said nothing because they have buttons. The postal strike continues. You know how I said I love when the other Randy comes up? This postal strike, just for Two's headlines alone, folks, can last another 6 months because I love reading these headlines. As the strike by the Canada Post workers nears the end of its third week, a new poll by Angus Reid finds Canadians split in their sympathies between Crown Corporation and its striking employees. However, the same poll also noted that a sizable majority of the more than 3,000 surveys said they were minimally affected by the strike, or in some cases, not at all. It said when it came to impact, almost a third, 32%, said they hadn't been affected at all, while almost 47% answered yes, they've been affected, but only a little.
Only a teensy bit. I mean, it's funny. The interesting thing I thought, and it got specifically mentioned, is that older demographics are less likely to say they've been affected by it than younger demographics, which I thought wasn't what I was expecting. Anyway, but yeah, it continues, and nobody gives a shit.
A swift way to blow taxpayer money. Federal Cabinet Minister Harjit Sajjan is defending his decision to accept taxpayer-funded Taylor Swift tickets for himself and his daughter. Pavco said it was hosting about 40 guests in BC Place suite at each Swift concert, including government officials and business partners. All guests were being asked to make a significant donation to the Greater Vancouver Food and Food Banks BC, Pavco said. The Greater Vancouver Food Bank told CBC News that Sajjan made a $1,500 donation for the tickets, in lieu of the tickets.
Yeah, which is interesting because the tickets in the nosebleeds behind the stage are going on StubHub for like $900 each. But he exempted himself. So if you make a charitable donation in recompense for a politician gift, you absolve yourself of the conflict of interest. It's this neat little loophole they have. Funny how many though there are of those. But yeah, so he made a $1,500 donation. He had tickets already. He sold them, made a $1,500 donation to get these tickets, which I'm willing to guess were an upgrade, because why would you sell tickets you already had to get new tickets unless they were better tickets? And the nosebleeds are hundreds of dollars more than the tickets, that the value of what he donated to the food bank.
I feel like this segment should be called Politicians Being Politicians, but hey, that's me.
Yeah. And so for Pet, the charity was the food bank, or one of the food banks in Vancouver, which have been fairly busy lately, to be fair. But that's because of people like Harjit Sajjan.
Isn't that convenient? Are we talking about CBC?
No, we're talking about the Doug Ford's
CBC actually think Pierre should stop talking about the border?
No. Oh, shoot. I may not have put the link in here. So that was the Doug Ford thing you were asking me about.
I got the thing I asked. The thing I asked too is about, folks. I literally asked him, "What the heck's the Doug Ford thing about? Is it about this?" Yeah, it's about that. I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me, but hey, whatever. And here we are. Isn't that convenient? Yeah, Two's not doing his homework. Carry on. Welcome to Mashup 136, where I try and get under.
You know what, Sean Newman? You can suck
like...
my SN penis.
All right, carry on.
So, Doug Ford's aide, who had a goofy name I can't remember, turned in his privately owned phone, which was then wiped by the phone carrier, and he was running the whatever that fucking land deal they had that seemed greasy as hell, because I can't find the article. Anyway, the guy who was running the whole thing was running it off a personal phone. He submitted so he couldn't comply with access to information requests because all the records had been destroyed. And then he said, but it's okay because other people have sent in the other sides of the conversations. You're like, okay, but is that all the conversations? Right? That's just all the conversations we know about. And then he was actually running it off of a Gmail account too. And so has all of the information been sent? Maybe, maybe not.
Probably not. Probably
Convenient.
No whiteys. Recent reporting by True North has shed light on disturbing practice by the University of Winnipeg Students Association, the operation of a lounge since 2018 inside the Bullman Student Center that explicitly excludes students based on their race, known as the Biopic Lounge. This space is only open to students who identify as Black, Indigenous, or as people of color. Students who identify as white are not welcome.
Can we just point out for a second that white is a fucking color?
Yes.
I am a person of color. The color is white. So please let me into this lounge where they show movies. You know what movies they probably don't show in there? Roots.
I mean, I read the story and I'm like, this is
like, do they not think about
Canada.
this? Like,
This is Canada right
does
now.
this student lounge, do they have their own water fountains there that the Black people are supposed to use? Do they take the bus in there? And do they all sit in different places on the bus? Does nobody think any of this through at all, ever?
It doesn't sound like it. Celebrities finally get the message. Comedian Sarah Silverman said on the U.S. election, a lot of people asked me if I was going to make a video or something, but my feeling was that no one wanted to hear from celebrities right now. Truer words couldn't be spoken to.
I like the fact that they're finally understanding. The message is actually getting through to them.
One finally understood. One.
Oh, they've all been pretty damn quiet lately for some reason.
That's because they lost. Their candidate lost. That's why they're quiet. They're gonna be jammering again in 4 years. You kidding me? Like they're gonna come all the way back. They haven't learned anything. This is one comedian who is like, yeah, I just didn't think anybody wanted to hear.
Okay, but here's the thing: is that the ones who you strongly suspect are closeted Republicans, like when Brett Favre tweeted that he wanted people to get educated and make the right decision for themselves. It was basically a Trump endorsement.
Yeah, coded words.
Right?
Yes.
That's the thing. Read up on the issues and make an informed decision is saying don't vote for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, but in the middle of COVID, if you were to actually shake someone's hand, that was code for, oh, you get it.
Yep.
Right? I mean, oh, goodness. Daniel Smith swings her big dick guys swinging their small dicks at women. Oh, man. I'm actually going to start with No. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this week, Bill 26, Health Statutes, Bill 27, Education Amendment, Bill 29, Fairness in Sport, was passed through Alberta legislature. So the health statutes prohibit healthcare professionals from prescribing puberty blockers and hormones to treat gender dysphoria for those 15 and under. The education part is all about parents being notified and being involved in anything to do with children and sex and pronouns and on. And then Bill 29, Fairness in Sport, is creating safe places, like keeping women's sports women. Twos. So hats off. You know, I was saying this next week. Next week I have Shane Getson, like I was saying, and Jennifer Johnson on. And one of the things I was saying to him, you know, is we'll sit on here and we'll berate any government for being stupid. But this is big news for Alberta, big news for North America. Honestly, it's the first government, as far as I understand, to do it this to get it through and to have it in multiple bills across multiple sectors. I think is huge. And I can't, you know, I got a ton of time for what this means.
I completely agree with all of that. It's nice to see a little bit of common sense every once in a while from these these folks. And then the other thing is that the LPGA is coming over to this way a little bit.
Yeah. They've updated their gender eligibility requirements to ban men from women's golf.
Yes.
So that's Riley Gaines. Sorry, I can pull that back up. That's Riley Gaines who posted that on X. And so, yeah, that's pretty big news. I actually got in a discussion with Dave Collum about this, and I was like, if we don't take a stand, you're gonna have a male winning the LPGA. Like, that's insane. And it's good to see that
Bruce Jenner was Woman of the Year. So
I realized that's what I mean is if you don't, yeah, I mean, that's why it's pretty cool here. Bring it back to Alberta. Alberta's put things in place. Shout out to Linda Blade, who wrote a book on the difference between men and women in sports, and April Hutchinson, who is in studio, and there's others, right? Jennifer Johnson for literally getting berated by a trans woman about not agreeing that women and trans women are the same thing, right? Like, I mean, all those things added up to it getting to where the government felt like they could probably get it through. Am I wrong in thinking that, too?
I think that it definitely surged the support for it. I mean, there's just such a fringe minority left with the unacceptable view that you can magically become a woman by cutting your dick off.
Heist of the week. Okay, so let's pull up this little doodad here. Okay, it says in Edmonton, a resident woke up to discover all her tires were stolen. Okay, you see the vehicle, folks. If you're listening, all 4 tires are gone, and
they didn't even leave the blocks.
Here's the video of it. Okay, pulling the tires off. Yep. Okay, loading them in the truck. Got it, and
then just peeling out.
Yep. There you go. There you go. So,
yeah,
they're stealing tires now. That's the state of Canada.
Like, we're not far away from eating zoo animals, man. Yeah, I'm gonna be really excited to try giraffe. I feel like it'll be a really high point.
Rapid fire news. Okay. Due to having 2 guests, the fact we're at an hour and 10 minutes already, 11 minutes, we're going to do a different version of Goofy News. It's rapid fire news. 2s, hit me.
Oh, you want me to take point on this?
Well, no, I thought you were going to hit me with am I just reading the headlines?
All right. Canadian Armed Forces sent a questionnaire to soldiers asking them if they had purchased extremist group merchandise such as Make Canada Great Again hats.
Timothy Caulfield, Coronation Medal winner. He said, dark times for science. Dark times indeed.
We literally talked about how full of shit this guy was about 2 weeks ago. And he won an award for being full of shit. Correct. These are meaningless awards, okay? And as an award-winning podcaster, I can say that. All right? $3.5 billion in Liberals' COVID business loans went to ineligible recipients, Auditor General finds.
They tell me that deregulation is impossible, yet here's Idaho. Number of pages of regulations in Idaho Administration Code. If you're wondering, if you're watching this, it's a giant. Listening. It's going up and up and up and up, and it has been dropping ever since. It
went off a cliff over the past 10 years.
Yes.
Alberta RCMP officer charged with sexually assaulting 2 males in a hotel room while off duty, and she has been suspended with pay for the last 2 years.
Of course they're going to give her pay. Officers arrested a 12-year-old boy after he stole his grandfather's car and drove 160 miles across the state.
Majority of Canadians oppose equity hiring more than the U.S. Basically, a majority of Canadians say that employers should not take cultural or ethnic backgrounds into consideration when hiring.
57%. 57% of Canadians said that. That's interesting. Tuesday, 80 million Lotto Max prize has been split between 2 winning tickets, one in Quebec and one sold in Alberta.
Well, that's pretty much classic Canadian outcome right there, is that an Albertan is giving half their money to somebody in fucking Quebec. Dad nearly dies after being bitten by family's pet hamster.
And yeah, anaphylactic shock. What a way to go. I mean, obviously he didn't die, but like, can you imagine being at that funeral? You'd have to chuckle, would you not? Like, I mean, it's a sad day. Oh, how'd he die? Bit by a hamster. Yeah. Anyways, here's the headline of the week. Probably, mayor says he refuses to be bullied or pay fine for not flying the pride flag. We talked about this last week. That's Mayor Harold McQuaker, okay, in northwestern Ontario. Sorry.
Yeah, he says, I'm not going to wear the ribbon. I'm not going to take your stupid course. I'm not going to pay your stupid fine. Interesting development in this, though, is that one of the reasons why they didn't fly the pride flag at town hall is because their town hall doesn't have a flagpole. So they got fined $15,000 for refusing to fly a flag on a flagpole that they don't even have. Okay, and then the other thing here, I'm just gonna point this out real quick. New trailer just dropped for Snow
White.
And if you have the dislike extension on Chrome, you can see that out of the 5.3 million views, number 38 and trending, nearly 25,000 people have liked it, or 25,000 people have liked it. Nearly 600,000 people have disliked it. This has to be one of the most disliked videos in the history of YouTube.
Remind me, like, I thought when we talked about this probably a year ago, they were going to make the dwarves not the dwarves. Did they change that somewhere along the line?
So the original plan was that they had a whole bunch of gender diverse
dwarves,
because they needed more representation, because midgets are in too many movies already, and so we need to have black midgets and Hispanic midgets and all this different stuff, and it looked horrible as hell. And then they ended up scrapping the idea entirely, and then they went with these animated monsters.
So I guess I watched the trailer and I'm like, oh my god, the divert, like, at least it resembles Snow White now. I mean, somewhat. Yes. I get the dislikes of the trailer, but me and you, when we talked last time about this, which has been a while back, they were talking about having pretty much everything there. I agree with yeah.
They needed this rushed. Sort of I mean, the whole thing's been rushed. It's rushed in the sense that they've had to just change their mind on a whole bunch of things, and it's been not very well what do you call it? Not very well spoken about by the actresses involved. And so that's basically that, and it's been funny.
Okay, here's my point. We got a couple more headlines. If you're watching on X, give us a retweet. Let's break some of the barriers on some of these social media platforms. I would love to see a few more people. Peter Dinklage pulled the ladder up behind him.
Yeah, he pulled the stepping stool up behind him, but yeah.
Make sure we hit, would love it if you guys would share us. If you're enjoying the show, it helps for you guys and gals to push us outside some of the bubbles that we are certainly in, probably some of the shadow bands that we are certainly in, and would love it. And here's the thing. This 51st state debate got sparked because of Trump's, his picture on the mountains with the Canadian flag, and now
that was part two of it. Part one was that Trudeau got summoned down to Mar-a-Lago to go meet with him.
Okay, fair.
And then he made a joke about how if Canada can't afford these tariffs, they should just become the 51st state, which is bullshit, because it would be like the 52nd or 53rd. Like, Puerto Rico is a state in the United States, even though it's not one of the 50, because they don't want to update the flag.
So what I want to know from everybody watching, we got hundreds of people watching right now. I want to know, would you become the 51st state? Yes, no, throw it in the comments. I want to know. Twos, would you want to become the 51st state?
Here's the thing. I'm a Western separatist. My voice has no say in what happens in this fucking country. I'm never going to have a voice in this country. And that sucks. And I don't think that, as much as I want to separate, I don't think it's ever going to happen. But I would take pissing off everybody east of Manitoba as a consolation prize.
So are you
Plus-
saying you haven't answered my question?
Would I take it as a first choice? No. Do I like the idea of doing it because it would piss off everybody in Ottawa? Yes.
It's funny. We've had two people roll in. One says no, Alberta being a state, thanks. And then one said yes for state. I'm against it. I believe in. I would love to have smaller government, and if you become part of the United States, like some of the biggest problems we have in the world, folks, are because of the United States government. Why would we want to all of a sudden just like jump in on that? Like, do you think we're going to get a better outcome?
Well, no.
We're going to get away from Trudeau. I'll give you that.
It's probably going to be more or less the same. It's probably going to be more or less the same. But it would piss off everybody in Ottawa. Sure. And that's the thing. I'm not red pill. I'm not blue pill. I'm not black pill. I'm not white pill. I'm laughing gas at this point. Nothing is ever going to work out in this country the way it ought to. And so if I have a choice, I'm going to pick whichever way pisses off the people who continue to vote against me having any fucking say in this country.
Kevin says 51st state as long as we leave Quebec behind. I'm sure twos can get behind that. And then Pet said the USA leads the charge on ESG, DEI. Have people forgotten that? Well put, Pet. I would agree with that 110%. Anyways, short-term PM weighs in on short-term rentals. There are more than 200,000 short-term rentals across the country, like Airbnbs and VRBOs that could be turned into housing. So we're giving cities more resources to crack down on those rentals and unlock more homes for Canadians. You know what this sounds like? It's like taking our guns and giving it to Ukraine to use in a war. And you're like, it makes zero sense. Now they're going to take your houses that you own and they're going to give them to this giant housing problem that isn't going to solve it either. Like, what are we talking about?
You think you own your house, Sean?
Yeah.
Quit paying property taxes for a year and see how that goes. Right? But yes, these are our fucking assets. And people have spent a lot of money investing in these things. Here's the problem is this is basically just regulatory uncertainty. And that causes hesitation in markets, which means that no one's going to want to do basement suites. No one's going to want to do any of this stuff that is going to build up the economy that would help us afford all of these extra people that are coming in legally and otherwise.
Yep. Yeah, this is a mess. I can't like this is, and I brought up the tweet just so people can see that Trudeau put this out on X. This isn't something that me and Twos pulled from somewhere, like scraped from an interview, right? Like this is an actual tweet that he put out, and I can't with this guy anymore. You know, I talk about. I hope.
What was the breaking point for you?
It's probably about 9 years ago. The other Randy I can handle. I think that's almost as comical as it gets. This is getting to. I think it can't get any worse, and it gets a little worse. So,
fair enough. Yeah, let's do some happy news.
Let's do some happy news. A man in Canada's far north leapt on a polar bear to protect his wife from being mauled, police said. The incident happened in Fort Severn First Nation, a small community of about 400 people in the far north of Ontario. Dude jumped on a bear's back. How you doing? That guy needs a medal, you know? If we're giving out medals, how about that guy? And then Virgin Voyages has made history as the first cruise line to accept Bitcoin as a payment, marking a significant milestone in cryptocurrency adoption. The groundbreaking option is available for their new annual price, priced at $120,000, which grants passengers a year-long stay in a sea terrace with exclusive perks and experiences.
Yep. And this one I just saw on the side just a couple minutes ago. So I haven't read it yet, but just this headline. It's beauty. Popular Mexican restaurant chain to reopen 20 years after bankruptcy. And it's called Chi-Chi's somewhere in the States. In Cincinnati, a Cincinnati Mexican restaurant is reopening because it went bankrupt, but it was apparently popular. That polar bear thing, though, like that's just
legit.
How awesome would that be?
Yes.
Because for the rest of your life, you know, you go to give the missus a back rub and she'd say, "No, I have a headache." And you'd be like, "Yeah, I had a headache after the polar bear bit me in my face." but I still went through with it. And then she'd be like, okay, yeah, you're right. Or what I would absolutely want to use this card for way more than that be, what do you want to have for dinner tonight? I don't know. Well, you pick something because you need to choose something because I chose to jump on a fucking polar bear. So no more of this. I don't know, whatever. And then I'll list every restaurant within 50 miles.
Mashup 136. Okay. Mashup 136 community notes. We're here. We're going to start here. Okay. May 10th, 2025. This is coming back.
Flipping the script today. I'm going all the way. It's about time. It's a good day coming. It's a good day coming. Good day, sweet like honey. It's a good day coming. It's a good day coming. It's a good day coming. Good day, sweet like honey. It's a good day coming. It's a good day coming.
There you go. Mashup. Cornerstone Forum returns May 10th. Early bird tickets on until the end of this month. So if you're wanting to get a ticket, they don't get any cheaper than this. We brought up two of the speakers, Chris Sims and Kalen Ford, but there's a whole cast of characters: Tom Luongo, Alex Craner, and on goes. Matt Ehret was the most recent one. Chase Barber, a guy that holds a special place in both mine and Two's hearts. Old Chucky Prodnick, who's
oh yeah,
guest hosted here. Tom Bodrovics from Palisade Gold Radio, and more coming. So that's my sales pitch for today. Other community notes: December 8th. So this Sunday, Wainwright Vermilion, Lloydminster UCP AGM in Wainwright, Alberta, 4 p.m. So for all you political nerds out there in my area, get involved.
And Lethbridge West by-election, December 18th. That's the one where Naheed Nenshi thought it was electoral interference to have it in the winter.
Yes.
Like just classic government bureaucrat response. Like, we can't go because it's cold out. And Erskine Curling Club and the Stettler Rec Center, February 5th to 9th, is the Alberta Boston Pizza Cup.
Twos, 136 in the books. Sims, Galtaca. Man.
That was a good lineup.
It's a good lineup. Folks, thanks for hopping on early and with us. And if, staying a little later too, hour and a half in, that is going to do us for this week. We're always here 99.9% of the time at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, Friday mornings. Love to have you here. Thanks for joining us this morning. We'll catch up to you next week. Twos till then.
See you guys.